This is Face the State for Sunday, March 1st. Yeah, we're rolling into March and election season like a lion, and some new political polling is showing us some conflicting results when it comes to how voters feel about Josh Shapiro and which election could be coming up. Was the president intending to make a political ad when he challenged Democrats to stand with him at the State of the Union? What should they have done? Also, the president talking about big tech creating its own energy. What does that mean for big projects already in the works, even here? All that and much more next.
CBS 21 News presents Face the State with Joel D. Smith, a look at the issues and politics that shape Pennsylvania.
Welcome to March, everybody, and my first guest is recently named one of the most effective lawmakers in Harrisburg. How about that? Dauphin County Democrat Tom Mehaffie. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I'm good, but I'm a Republican.
Yeah, I mean, that would make you real effective. If you could do both like that, wow.
Cross ballot, that's
Man.
good. Great to be back.
Yes.
It is.
That's one of those things that you try to grab the words after they've come out of your mouth and bring them back, but that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, well, how do you get that title beyond being a Democrat and Republican at the same time?
Yeah, it's a great honor, and I want to. It's the most effective GOP legislator in the House. I think it comes from hard work, working across the aisle, doing the things you need to do for the people of your community. But when you get a bill and when you have a bill, you got to work the bill.
Yeah.
It's not just let's introduce it and move on. And we've been very successful. We've got a lot of bills across to the Senate. Not that they all pass and are signed by the governor, but I feel good with what we've done and what's good for the district and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And yeah, they're actually just looking at how often you get that sponsored bill through the chamber. As part of that experience, are you better at it now?
Yeah, I'm much better. After 10 years, you learn. You learn what you need to do and how you got to work through the process. It's a consensus building process. I think a lot of people over the years have forgot that and how to work that, and that's why I'm so successful getting bills through.
Yeah, is part of that being bipartisan? Because some would say, we don't want you to be so bipartisan. Just vote with us, hang with us all the time. Don't worry about that. But, so other times being bipartisan pays off like this.
It does. It does. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah. You believe that. Not everybody believes that. So
Okay.
We think that's refreshing, but not everybody does. Let's talk about some other things that are going on. Some of your colleagues stepping down. How do you help the newer ones become as effective as you? What is your advice to the newbies coming in?
A lot of them that are coming in, they're so different, right? You have people that came out of college. You have people who have done their career and are coming in late in life.
Yeah.
So everybody's a little bit different. But the first thing I do, and what I did when I first got in, is listen. Listen to people, find out what's going on, listen to your constituents. That's the most important thing. Work your district as hard as you possibly can. And you will find out what you need to do to help your district and to help the Commonwealth.
Is it easier for re-election when you've done that? The voters expect that, and you don't have to sell "this is me" anymore. You guys know what I'm all about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can't wait to the end to start your campaign. You're campaigning every day.
But it sounds like you're comfortable being that person that you are in terms of working, with everybody, and that's something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I represent everyone. I don't represent just Republicans. I don't represent just Democrats. I represent everybody. So you have to approach it in that way. Not that I always agree with everybody.
No, you got to have
Not that they always agree with me.
Yeah.
But that's what you want to do.
That's practical. And when you get to the district that you guys are in, it is 3 Mile Island is there now, the Clean Energy Center. But when it comes to that restart, how is it going? Because everyone gets excited when it was first announced, and then we realize it takes time. So where are we in the timeline?
It is doing extremely well. They are on time. They're meeting the numbers. The biggest thing is right now is the NRC and making sure that this is being done in a very safe manner. And that's what's most important to the constituents of the 106th district, is making sure that this is safe, making sure that it's being done in a responsible manner. We have some of the best people working there, and they're doing a great job.
What's our timeline for the restart?
They're hoping June of 27.
Okay. And what's interesting is listening to the State of the Union, something that the president said, what we're doing with all these AI companies that want these data centers that takes up so much electricity and power, they're going to require them to have their own power. Well, you guys are ahead of the game on that somehow.
Yeah, they saw an opportunity. I think Microsoft teaming with Constellation, they saw this great opportunity to open, a nuclear power plant that's never been done. Now this is the second one, actually. Palisades is the first one, and that should come online shortly. And we're seeing some good things right now.
Pretty interesting. We said that you get those bills moving. The next one we're going to talk about is something you have to would protect public school employees who were hurt on the job. So it's been in committee, hasn't gone too far yet, but tell us about this one.
Still working on it. It's a work in progress. This is this consensus building process, working with all entities who matter in this situation. Number one, the employees, right? We are seeing,
give me a scenario.
Yeah, we're seeing things that are that when we went to school we didn't see, and that is teachers being assaulted by parents and or students. And when you listen to the teachers and you see what's going on and the things that have happened to them, it's scary, right?
What can
it's
government
scary.
do about that?
So where we're looking at it, if a teacher gets hurt on the job and they are off for a certain period of time, they don't lose any of the things that go along with their contract. Okay. You know, usually you go on workman's comp and then you'd lose some of your other benefits.
Yeah.
We're saying that no, for 1 year you're gonna stay there, and that's what's gonna happen, and we're gonna make sure you're made whole, because when you're on the job and you're hurt like that, you shouldn't lose anything.
And it's already just so emotional, probably, from what occurred and everything else. Having to worry about that too is probably not something you want to do.
Yeah, we want to attract good teachers. Paul Farrell, the representative, he's been great. Him and I did this together, came together on it. Wonderful to work across the aisle on this issue, because this is not a partisan issue. This is a very bipartisan issue.
Okay. Hey, we're looking forward to seeing that in the future. And I'm not going to put you on the spot about when the budget will be done. But how about how it feels right now? You got a 15-second response. How it feels right now in the process.
Yeah, everything is a start, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I see where people don't like what the governor offered. Some people really like what the governor offered. But at the end of the day, we go through this process. I'm hoping we get it done by June 30th. Let's put a mark on that
We'll
and say
see where
done.
it goes. And I know that you're not saying it was a big deal to be named, the person who gets the most done here, but it's not bad. Compared to the other thing they could have said about you.
There's a lot they could say about me, but I'm very glad to have that, and it shows that I'm doing a good job, and I like knowing that others are seeing that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, good to have you here.
Great seeing you, Joel.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're not done yet. Of course, we have a lot more to come, including my next guest is the chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, Eugene DePasquale. We'll see if he's trying to recruit him since I changed what party he's in. But we're going to respond to the State of the Union address. What kind of things could have been maybe different, if any? Stick around. All right, folks, next guest we said is the chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, Eugene DePasquale. Welcome back to the show. And I just talked to Tom Mehaffie. He's not quite willing to come to your side yet, but maybe you can sweeten the deal. I don't know.
I'm sure Tom was a ratings bonanza for you, so great to be back. Thanks for having me.
And it's good to see you. Let's start with something quick. Special elections coming up this week. Any concerns?
Look, we're always going to run through the finish line in all of these, so that's the number one concern. But I think we're going to be just fine in some of these.
Yeah, I mean, these seem to be in districts that pretty secure in where the numbers are going in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. But again, you can't take anything for granted.
Well, and when it's tight, you always think about that kind of thing. I want to talk about the State of the Union a little bit. I know that's the congressional folks, but it's still a Pennsylvania issue with some of the people that were there. What's the right response when you're put on the spot like that? And the whole thing was, okay, here is the U.S. Olympic team. Okay, we're going to stand for that. Other things were not. And then there was that moment that I think was really a planned moment by the president. Will you stand to say that the number one thing is protecting U.S. citizens, not illegal aliens? And the Democrats didn't stand up, and that's being used in some circles against you guys.
Look, I get the political theater of this, but let me be clear. The president showed how out of touch he was during that nearly 2 hours of a speech, where he talked about basically mocking affordability, showed nothing about dealing with the healthcare crisis we're getting in the United States, nothing about higher prices, and really nothing about bringing the country together. So that was a 2-hour display of someone that is completely out of touch, bringing more chaos to the people of Pennsylvania and the people of the United States. And you had congressional Republicans and even Stacey Garrity down there applauding that chaos and doing nothing about the affordability crisis.
When you look at other things in the State of the Union that may affect Pennsylvania, whether you heard it or you needed to hear it, what else comes to mind?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to mind is in Pennsylvania is healthcare. We have a situation that is dire in Pennsylvania where tens of thousands of people are losing their health care coverage on the state exchange, and the ones that are keeping it are seeing their premiums double. And that is something that the president has refused to try to help to address. That is a crisis in Pennsylvania, along with obviously the higher prices. And we've recently seen a report coming out that the inflation rate in January was actually much higher than expected. That is on basically laid at the hands of the president, who, through his chaotic tariff policy, is driving up the cost of everyday Americans.
Yeah, I don't know where that's going to end up after all of this. The tariffs settling and not being there, and then kind of back in a new way of calling them tariffs, and then seeing where this goes. The other thing is inflation. It's hard to measure that because is it down from where it was, or is it actually down from, net zero? So the measurements can get wonky.
Look, you can stat this thing to death. I get that. But at the end of the day, average everyday Pennsylvanians are feeling that it's hard to just get through the week, get through the month. And that's what we need to be focused in on when it comes to both public service and campaigns, is how do we address that? And the president, through 2 hours Monday or at the State of the Union, did absolutely nothing to address that.
After you watched that State of the Union, how do you feel about District 10 at this point moving forward?
Look, I think we're going to be in a great position to flip that. I think Pennsylvania is going to be at the forefront of flipping enough congressional seats to make sure that Democrats control Congress and that Donald Trump becomes, at least legislatively, a lame duck president. And when it comes to PA 10, I mean, there's nobody that's more loyal to Donald Trump and less loyal to his constituents than Scott Perry.
So when it comes to PA 10, we're looking at two candidates here, Justin Douglas and Janelle Stelson. Justin Douglas has said in the past he doesn't feel like he's getting the support and maybe the recognition he needs as being a real candidate because this is going to be a primary coming up. How do you feel about that and letting the people know a little bit more about him and making their decision?
Look, I'm a believer that, look, at the end of the day, the primary is up to the voters, and they're all going to, both the candidates, both Janelle and Justin, are going to do a great job of getting out there, meeting all the voters. Then when the primary voters pick their nominee, we'll all rally behind the winner to make sure we defeat Scott Perry.
Do you think they should have a debate?
I've always been pro that, yes.
Okay. The political ramifications of a state budget if it's late again. Some have said strategically the Republicans are in no rush to get this thing done. They can slow this down and then make it look like the governor's not doing his job. If you anticipate that, how do you work through it? What are you thinking when it comes to the timing and how it may look politically?
Look, when it comes to Governor Shapiro, he is ready to roll up his sleeves and get this thing done. First of all, he's done his part. He has introduced a budget that is balanced. And now it is up to the legislature. They're having their budget hearings. And then we need to get this thing done. And I believe the governor will do everything he can to try to get it done on time. If Senate Republicans want to drag it out for political optics, as silly as that is, that's on them. But the governor's prepared to get this thing done on time and make sure what is even more important about the budget, that it invests in the right priorities, that it invests in our education, invests in our infrastructure, invests in our healthcare. I know Governor Shapiro, that's one of the reasons why he's so incredibly popular right now, is that his first 3 years in office have been focused exactly on that. And that's what this budget will be. He
is popular. Yeah, his approval rating is 56% in this recent Quinnipiac poll. But what's interesting is the same people are asked if he would be a good president. Only 40% said that. We're trying to figure out where does those 16% go if they like him so much as governor, but they can't see him as a president. Any thoughts on that?
Look, I'm just focused on, we want to make sure we reelect him in November and obviously hold the state house, flip the state senate, and flip enough congressional seats to give Democrats the majority. We'll focus on other elections at the appropriate time.
Congressionally, I know, for the Democrats at large, they target which ones are close enough that we're going to put some extra emphasis and money into. I think they have had 33 or 35 across the country. How many of those will be in Pennsylvania this time?
I'm sorry, repeat that again. I'm sorry, I missed that question.
For the broader, DNC, putting money towards their targeted races. How many will be in PA?
Look, the way the popularity of the president is right now, I think we're going to be expanding, see that field of the competitive seats expanded dramatically. I mean, when you just see what happened in some of these special elections that happened last year, including flipping a rural Lancaster County State Senate seat, I think every seat needs to be examined.
Well, we'll see. There's only so much money. You got to pick your spots eventually.
That's right. But let me tell you something. I would not want to be a Republican in a competitive election trying to defend this president and his policies.
We'll see, because hitting March here, the sprint has begun. Hey, great to see you, Eugene DePasquale.
Oh, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you next time. All right, time for our political insiders. They're talking about a lot of good stuff as well. The polling that just came out, State of the Union, do you stand, do you not? All that and some predictions coming your way. My favorite time of the week is here. The CBS 21 Political Insiders. It is Tony Lepore and Charlie Giroux. You can decide later which side they're on because I'm just making up stuff today as to attributing people to different parts. Not exactly. But let's get to our first topic. I think I know what that is. The cool poll that we sent out to everybody. It's the Quinnipiac poll. A lot of interesting stuff there. 49% say that right now on the generic ballot, they would like the Democrats to win the majority when it comes to the Congress coming up, and the 43% it would be Republicans. But now let's look at the governor race. 55 to 37% Shapiro over Garrity right now. Is that the magic number that he needs to maybe keep to show he's, got the same amount as last time?
I think it's actually going to get worse. He hasn't spent a penny. And he has 30, 40, 50 million dollars. He's already up 16, 18, 20%.
That is
he hasn't spent a penny.
Yeah.
It's only going to get worse.
Her favorability is 16%. But here's the bright side for Republicans. 66% don't have enough information to make an opinion of her. How do you change that?
She has a great story to tell. The angel of the desert, military hero, and somebody that we should all be saying thank you to. Great record as a state treasurer, one of the most prolific vote getters in Republican history. She's got a great story to tell. It will be told, and the governor doesn't have much to sell other than what he's already sold, and we know what that is.
She doesn't have 20 to 30 million to spend on getting that message
She has
out,
like 2 or 3 million right now. It's bad.
Yeah.
Do you really think that those numbers are going to hold up, Tony?
Not 2 or 3 million, but his numbers are going to go up.
Let's go back to the polling. Speaking of his numbers, his job approval rating, 56%. That's pretty good, right? But then the same voters say only 40% that he would make a good president. Any idea why that would be?
Yeah, because he's all hat and no cowboy.
Then why do they like him as favorability-wise?
Again, his support as governor is a mile wide and an inch deep, because what that poll doesn't do, but other data has shown, is that when you ask people, well, why do you think he's doing a good job, you get humming. They really don't know. What they've been subjected to is the Shapiro PR machine, paid for by the taxpayers, incidentally, that's been inundating them with all these positive messages. And so they think, oh, yeah, he's okay. But then you ask why.
So president, 40%, overall 56.
I think they're focusing on his governor's race right now, honestly. But I also believe that there's been a bunch of national candidates out there that have sort of taken the steam a little bit. That's why his number's at 40 that have been there for years. I think that's more.
A couple more numbers to go over. Let's talk about the U.S. senators from Pennsylvania. The favorable rating for John Fetterman, 46% overall, but it is 73% for Republicans, 37% from the Democrats. And then for McCormick, 37% overall. Now, he has until 2030 to even think about running again. So would he even care about that number at this point?
His reputation is growing in very positive ways. And obviously, one of the things that people like is the fact that he gets along well with John Fetterman and works well with him for the people of Pennsylvania. But I will say this again. Dave McCormick is increasingly emerging as a national leader, articulate, smart, and a good representative of the people
All
of
right, you're a Republican. 73% of Republicans like Fetterman right now. Would you like him to run in 28 as a Republican?
I'd like him to run as anything. The fact that he is so popular with Republicans is significant. You asked me off air a couple of days ago if I'd ever seen anything like it. And the only thing that came to mind quickly was Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, who once upon a time ran on the Democrat ticket for vice president. Then was asked, suggested by John McCain as a vice presidential candidate.
It was possible. Wrap this up.
I'll tell you real quick. That 73% number is bad for Fetterman. And let me tell you why. Because the Republicans will not nominate Fetterman by hook, crook, nothing. They won't nominate him. The Democrats at 46%. It's bad.
It'll be interesting. He's got a couple of years to work that out as well. I want to get to this right now. Let's listen to Scott Perry.
We're hoping to get some answers. I got a whole binder full of questions here. Not real confident we're going to get some answers, but we got to try.
All right, so that's Scott Perry. He's on the House committee, the Oversight Committee, talking to the Clintons this week, and Thursday and Friday. And so he has all these questions. He wants to get some answers. What's going to come out of this politically? Talking to the Clintons about Epstein and what they knew or didn't know about him back in the day and all the pictures that are out there, particularly about the president right now.
I think in the end, and call me a Democrat, but I think what this is going to do is force the Republicans to testify. It's going to, the Clintons, by being there, is going to force the whole Trump crew to end up in front of them. It just has to.
Okay, look, we'll get to that in a moment, but what's the follow-up? What's the strategy behind bringing the Clintons up on this quickly?
Well, I think it is to focus on the truth. And I kind of agree with Tony on this one. I think everybody ought to be up there, front and center. The key word these days is transparency. How about a little bit?
How about the Democrats have said once we get, take over, if they win in November, they're ready to talk to Melania about this. She's in a lot of pictures as well, and she knew those folks.
Well, let's talk to everybody.
Okay.
There's a lot of splaining to be done.
All right. All right, we have some predictions to be had. You guys want to wait and think about it during the break? We're going to make them think about it during the break. Let's take the break now.
Sure.
We'll have some more time at the end, and we'll talk about the Texas primary. Everyone's talking about it. You will be too. Why are we talking about the Texas primary? I will tell you why. Because they are some national figures here, and it could be a harbinger of what we will see come November as well. So this is happening this week, and you're seeing some of the biggest names right here. That is Crockett, and that is Cornyn. So let's talk about them individually first. On the Democratic side, do you think Tallarico has a chance against Crockett? Tallarico was, interviewed by Stephen Colbert, and he's much more moderate than she is.
Yeah, he does. And I've seen some polling, and it keeps going back and forth, and forth. I think in the end, if you're looking for, I think Crockett's going to pull it out. Yeah. But I think Tallarico's got a shot.
Okay. Let's talk about the Republicans. You got Cornyn, you got Paxton, you got Hunt, and it's interesting when you talk about some of these because they all kind of have their issues right now.
Well, my sense is that Senator Cornyn will win the primary. Generally speaking, when you have an incumbent and multiple candidates in opposition, the incumbent gets through.
Yep.
He will certainly win the general election. I mean, Texas has been fool's gold for the Democrats for a long time, and if they nominate this Crockett woman, who frankly is a left-wing loon, they do it at their own.
She's a popular one, though.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he says left-wing loon, but she is exceptionally popular.
She's a firebrand, and this takes her to another level, at least for this cycle.
Popular within the circles that Tony travels, but in regular America, not so much.
Okay. Well, it is fun. Election season is upon us. Also, some special elections we'll be covering this week as well. Thanks for being with us, guys, as we are into March like a lion.
Yeah.